Hi guys, I'm here with our BH500 bass head and the matching BC cabinets. And in this video I'd like to give you a quick overview of what the BH500 has in terms of features. Now, to start out with some of the standard stuff, we have an input section. Now, input sections are pretty standard on bass amps, but this particular section is tuned so it fits with all kinds of different basses, and it basically accepts both active and passive pickups. So no matter what bass you play, it's going to fit with the input section of the BH500. Over here on the right-hand side, there's a master level. Master level controls the 500 watts of power. Again, pretty standard control. In the middle here, we have 4 tone controls. So this is the tone section. There's a bass control, low mid, high mid, and a treble control. And of course, you can set your sound or tune your sound with the tone controls. But as a small supplement, in order to help you to get to a faster sound, we also added a contour function. Now what contour is that it's basically a predetermined EQ, a pre-tuned EQ setting. So you get a little more fast and efficiently to that scooped sound that works very well on a lot of different basses. So the way it works is that you want the first contour you hit once and you get slightly scooped sound. If you hit twice, you get to the second contour, and if you hit it again a third time, you're without the contour and back to just tone controls. Obviously, this runs simultaneously, so you can use both contour and tone controls at the same time. So that's kind of the standard stuff that you come to expect from any kind of bass amp out there, right? Now, BH500 has a couple of additional tricks up the sleeve that you don't see on every bass amp out there. So let's have a closer look at those. If you start out here in the left corner, we have a bass tuner set up for 4 or 5 string basses. So the way it works is that you hit the mute button to get into the tuner mode, and then the meter over here shows you basically what note you're playing or what string you are strumming. And then the 2 arrows right here tells you whether you need to tune up or tune a little bit down to be in tune basically. So once you're ready to go, on mute, ready to play. Looking down here, just below the tuner, we have another knob called Spectral Comp. Spectral Comp is basically a compressor, but it's not entirely the same as all the different compressors out there on the market. Actually, Spectral Comp stands out quite drastically from most compressors. In that Spectral Comp is a virtually per string type compression. So in essence, what it does is that it compresses different parts of the frequency range independently and in different ways. Now, what this means, all in all, for the bass player is that you get this nice and tight compression without killing your sound entirely. Moving on from Spectral Comp, we also have a tube tone knob. Tube tone is a recreation of a full tube tube bass amp. Now, obviously BH500 is not a tube amp, but we still wanted to give you the option of getting parts of that tube sound. So what we've done is a pretty complicated circuit that basically recreates both the preamp section of a tube amp and also the power amp section of a tube amp, only mapped down to one knob. So what this allows you to do is to dial in the amount of tube sound that you want on your bass. So it goes all the way from just a slight touch of the tube amp sound, so the slightly nasal sound that you know from tube amps, all the way up to a little bit more growl, and then into full and regular overdrive and distortion. So that's tube tone. Right next to tube tone, we have another special knob called tweeter tone. Now this is pretty simple. What tweeter tone does is that it controls the high frequency content that you want coming through your tweeter, hence the name. So basically what happens is that if you put it at a 0 position, you get the high frequency level that we've tuned from TC from the factory. Now if you want more than high frequency than that, if you're playing stuff where you really want it to open up, you want your sound to be maybe a bit more hi-fi, if you play slap bass and stuff like that, or you just want your pick to come through better, you can open it up by adding more high frequency by dialing up tweeter tone. And basically what this does is that it allows more high frequencies to come through the tweeter in the cabinet. On the contrary, if you want to be more vintage sounding or you want it to be slightly darker, you put it into a negative position and you can basically roll off or control the level of the tweeter or high frequency content coming through the tweeter of your cabinet. So that's tweeter tone. So that's basically all the knobs that we have on BH500. Now, the really cool thing about BH500 is that Once you've set your sound, you actually have the option of storing that sound. So up here we actually have a memory section where you can store up to 3 sounds. The way it works is that I can dial in whatever sound I want, press and hold the button, and once it blinks, I've stored my sound. I can now go on to do a completely different setting. Let's open up the tweeter tone and store that on the second preset. So that's my second sound. So by hitting preset 1 again, I'm back to my original sound. So very cool and very, very fast and efficient way of changing whatever sound, whether it's the level of tweeter tone, whether it's the level of overdrive or tube tone that you want in there, or just the tone control. So basically any knob apart from the master level is stored in the preset. And a small, really nice trick is that you can disable the preset as well. So if you want to play exactly what the knobs say, just hit the button one more time. Once the LED is unlit, you're basically back to just the knobs and no presets in action. So that's the memory section. Finally, over here we have the connector section, which includes auxiliary inputs where you can play back tracks or drum tracks or whatever you need for rehearsal. Connect your iPhone. We supply the small mini jack to RCA with the amp. And the tracks that gets played into the auxiliary output comes out in stereo from the headphone output together with your bass sound. And the bass sound is, in addition to just being whatever setup you've dialed in here, it also has a little bit of cabinet simulation in there, so it blends really well with the tracks that you're playing with. Finally, over here, balanced output that allows you to either record or connect to the PA if you're playing gigs. And of course, there's a pre and a post button, so you determine whether you want to include some of the settings that you've done here with the tone control and everything, or whether you want to just take it straight from the input jack. So that's the quick overview of the BH500. Now, if you want to check out a bit more details on some of the different features, please go and see some of the other videos, check out some of the other videos. We also have a bit more information on some of the cabinets. If you want to learn more details about that, check out the separate feature videos on that.